about is, the Gemara says, if a person could be, digging for jewels and digging for gold, and he becomes a garbage collector, it's heartbreaking, right? What's wrong with this garbage collector instead of being digging for gold? Because both begin saying it a little bit. That he doesn't know who he is, right? He doesn't know what he can do. You know what we all suffer from? It's so much so true. We all suffer from that. We don't have the faintest idea what we could do. Listen, if I would go up to a little slave in Egypt and say, "Listen, brother, do you think that you're capable of standing on Mount Sinai, God talking to you?" First he'd say no, right? But then I'd convince him he is capable. And I'd ask him, how long would it take you to get yourself to the level that God should be able to talk to you? He'll say years. The truth is it took exactly 7 weeks, right? And I'll tell you something else. The truth is that the first night of the Seder was mamish on the level like Mount Sinai. It was only it that it was taken away from us. Now I want you to know something very deep. The whole thing of counting the Homer is because the first night of Seder was mamish God opened all the gates of heaven. Then he took it away. And then he says, okay, work on it yourself. Reach that light. And then we worked for 7 weeks, we reached that level, and God spoke to us. It took us 7 weeks. So the thing is like this. According to the Gemara, when did the exile of the 400 years of Egypt begin? They began with the birth of Yitzchak. The birth of Yitzchak, because Yitzchak was the first Jew who was born, and he was born in Israel, although he was born in Israel, but the land didn't belong to Avraham Avinu. So it was called that he was already a stranger. Yitzchak was already a stranger. The first Jew was born as a stranger. So the whole thing of Egypt was because the first Jew who was born a Jew, what it means he was born a Jew? That means his roots are Jewish. It means his roots are holy, right? And being in Egypt means that he to lose touch with your roots, right? It's a long term, I don't want to go into it too long. Avinu was a holy Jew, but he was a Jew by choice, right? Not the roots. Yitzchak was the first Yiddish who got his Yiddishkeit was by roots, right? Not by choice. So the truth is Yaakov Avinu had both, right? Mamish the Klal Yisrael begins from Yaakov, who was both, right? He had Avraham Avinu, right? The Jew by choice, and also Yitzchak, the Jew by roots, right? It has to be both, right? Then begins Yaakov, mamish, really, And after you're both, you're by choice and by roots, then it begins, right? Mamish Gewalt, there are a lot of Yiddish who are Jew by roots and some are Jew by choice. It's very sweet, but it's not real yet. It has to be both, right? But anyway, to go through this whole thing until you come out from Egypt takes you a long time till you get to it, Takes 400 years with pain and slavery till you get to that level, mamish, to know exactly what it is. Then you come out and mamish, know I'm a Jew and I am standing on Mount Sinai. But you know what it is? If we would know how holy we are, what we can do, mamish would do different things, We don't know what level we are. That's slavery, I forgot my roots, I forgot my choice, I forgot everything. Yeah, I know it, but I don't know it, right? The Maral says, slave and not slave is if my soul is completely in action, right? That's called completely free. Everything of me is working, right? According to the Maral, let's say if I'm, God forbid, if a person is well, only his foot is not working, the Maral says it's a slave. Because how come the foot isn't working, right? According to Maral, being sick means being a slave in a certain way, you know, because one part of me isn't working. Right? It's not real. I'm not completely there. It's like a Gewalt, you know. The world always thinks slave freedom means someone stands up and with a whip, I can't get a job, it's slave, it's stupid. Well, this isn't where it's at, you know. Anyway, Pesach, the whole thing is that mamish, a great light is shining, and I know again who I am, you know. And that gets me out of Egypt in a second, you know. And I'm not hung up on those little things I'm doing, you know. Because I can only build pyramids for Pharaoh until I know exactly what I can do, you know. The moment I know that I can go up to Mount Sinai and talk to God, you know, even Pharaoh can't hold me back anymore. I'm saying this, you know, without getting involved with some of our kids, you know, like I include myself, all of us, but sad enough, some of the kids, you know, mamish, they don't know what they can do, you know. They don't know what they can do, so they don't. Even the house was not getting involved. You know, the house could be in the highest level, you know. And it isn't not because of any badness, but because everybody doesn't know how high they could reach, you know. It's the truth, you know. How much sad, you know. None of us, you know. So maybe this Pesach, I hope is God's help, you know. Now listen to this very deep. What does it mean to know what I can do? You know, to be completely aware of the depths of my life, you know. A dead person can't do anything, right? So the less I can do, that means I'm closer to death than to life, right? Because the dead person can't do anything, right? The more I'm alive, the more I can do, right? If I can reach the highest level, it means I'm utmost alive, right? You see, the question of being a slave and not being a slave, it's a question of what life level are you on, right? Are you on the level of a slave? I can do this, I can't do this, right? A slave either thinks I can only daven a little bit and not so much. A free either knows I can mamish, I can knock off a daven like the Holy Baal Shem. Listen, I'll tell you the greatest story in the world. You know, Michael Rothschild had 7 sons, and one of them was Rabbi Yossele Miyam Pola. Anyway, the story is that Rabbi Yossele Miyam Pola was very sick, mamish gefährlich sick. And then, mamish, he nearly died. And then suddenly, while he nearly died, he began sweating like, you know, and he really got well. He sweated for 2 hours, like, sweated out all the sickness. After 2 hours, he opened his eyes, he says, folks, I'm okay. So what happened? He said, this is what happened. He said, the mamish died. He came up to heaven. And they brought in all his prayers, and people in heaven said, well, this is praying. So they wanted mamish to keep him there. Suddenly, it says, the Holy Baal Shem Tov walked in and he said, what's going on here? They said, you know, this Yossele didn't daven properly. He says, you're telling me about my Yossele? He says, Yossele, do me a favor, knock off a little marv, you know? Show them what you can do, you know? So he says, I began to daven marv in heaven, you know? Mamish was all my soul, and I was sweating like a dog, you know? While he was sweating from this marv, he sweated out his sickness, you know? It's a very deep story, you know? You need someone like the Holy Baal Shem, one good friend to tell you, listen, brother, you can do it, you know, just sweat it out, you know. You can do it, you know. Okay, how does the book of Exodus begin? You have to know your name, you know. What gets you out of Egypt? Your name. You have to know who you are. You know? Because the name is not just a nickname, you know. But the name, if I know my name, that means I really know who I am, right? I just want to tell a few minutes this one here. Something very very strong, you know? If I think I need a cab to get from here to the medical center, right? Because I'm so schwach. It's possible, right? But if I would be completely alive, as soon as I can get there, I don't need a cab, right? I don't want to say bad things. A lot of kids think they need outside help to get somewhere, you know? What do you need outside help for, you know? Just get there, you know? Hope you know what I mean, brothers. No, it's stupid, you know? That means it's mama's slavery. It's absolute slavery. And I'll tell you something else. A slave, the saddest thing about a slave is, he has about 10,000 excuses for everything. Remember what he said, what is the biggest slavery in the world? Excuses, right? They might be real. Maybe they might be true. Listen, Pharaoh had an excuse also to make us slaves, the economy of the country, right? They had no excuses for the war in Vietnam. The economy absolutely needed a little war, and it was better. I mean, maybe for the economy it would have been better to make a war between Ohio and Iowa, but just you couldn't get to it. I let it be in Vietnam, you know. They had excuses, but the world doesn't run on excuses, right? Okay, now listen to something very deep. This is Gewalt. Reb Nachman says, what is the whole thing of Egypt? You know, not only getting out my emotions from Egypt, my mind out of Egypt. You have to realize one thing, that bread is very closely attached to my mind. Because the Zohar Kodesh says that a baby does not know who his father and his mother until it eats bread. That means mamish bread really gives strength to my mind. Then I know what it's all about, you know. I know who my father and mother is. I know what it's all about in this world. You know? So matzah is mamish, gives me back my strong mind, you know, I should know what it's all about. So Rab Nachman says there's a slave mind and a free mind. A slave mind has mamish about 10,000 excuses, you know. Let's learn from that. Listen, everybody is drowned in something, you know. And the whole thing of Egypt is to get out of what you're drowned in. Everybody is tied to something, chained to something. Nobody knows about it. But then everybody has to have Rachmanas compassion on his own soul and just get out of it. You have to know, he says something very strong. While the 10 plagues are taking place, everybody goes through 10 plagues. You know, you're waking up and you think you should go, but you're still in Egypt. It's not so hard. The last night, you know, that night we left you, it's the hardest test in the world. You know, mamish to leave the things you're tied to, mamish to leave all the things you had excuses with, and to get out of it. This is the hardest, the greatest test in the world, you know. So Rab Nachman says, you know, you have to realize one thing, standing on Mount Sinai was not a test. Why not? I'm standing there, I blow my mind, I see the greatest light in the world, and God talks to me, you know? Why not, you know? To get out of Egypt, you know. And you have to realize one thing, that every second, you know, was just, I was playing with my own life, because God forbid, if I'm not strong enough, I'm staying, right? Utmost test, you know. Therefore, he says something very strong. How do you get out of Egypt fast? Let's ask, you know, you have to go out fast. Don't think. You know what it takes the strongest mind is? When my mind says to me, mind, stop thinking. Right now is no time for thinking, just do it. That's it. That means my mind is so strong. I'll tell you something very deep. You know, in relationship between people also, you know. If I hold someone by the goggle, I'm not very close to them, right? If I'm completely close to them, I don't have to hold on to them, right? can let them free. Strong enough, Let's say jealousy always comes from not being so sure about each other, right? Gotta hold it, grab them by the neck, right? If the relationship is not much very deep, I can trust, right? So the thing is like this. What is the strongest, what does matzah do to my mind? My mind tells my mind, let go, Let go, it's okay, I know what to do. So the mind tells the mind with the aid of matzah, right? You need matzah. Because the question is very deep. We got out of Egypt after midnight only. How come we eat matzah before midnight? So this is what the answer is. Because who gives me the strength to get out from Egypt after midnight? It's the hardest test in the world. I need a strong mind, absolutely strong mind to see clear truth that I was only in Egypt because I was excusing myself, right? And it might be true excuses, right? So matzah gives me such a strong mind, mamish, a super mind that I know it's crazy. I can get out of Egypt right this minute, nobody stops me. This is the greatest light in the world. It's the greatest light in the world gives me the strength to get out of Egypt. Right? This is matzah. But what is the hardest thing in the world? Listen to this. Everybody needs something to hold on to, right? Everybody has little things we're holding on to. What is the utmost we are holding on to is to a little piece of bread, because everybody really needs bread, right? The holiness of leaving Egypt is we walked out of Egypt without bread, right? We walked out into the desert, we had nothing to hold on to. Do you know what a strong mind I need to leave a place without? I can leave my job, I have another job, right? I can leave one little habit if I have another little habit, right? Everybody needs something small to hold on to. But here I come out from Egypt, I'm not taking anything with me, And this is absolute freedom. But yet you have to know I get out of Egypt fast. It has to be that night, because if I'm God forbid waiting more than that night, it's too late. Okay, so Rabbi Nachman says, Al-Kain tzrichem lesalek daita legamre. The greatest cleverness means not to think, to be clever enough to know I'm not thinking. You see, when I walk, have you ever listened to this? Very strong. Rabbi Nachman is unbelievably deep. When I'm thinking, can I walk fast or slow? How fast can I walk while I'm thinking? Very slow. You see when you talk to someone really engrossed in a conversation, you walk slowly, right? If you want to run, you have to stop thinking. Like a Gewalt, How do you run out of Egypt? Your mind tells you don't think. My mind is so strong to stop my mind. So therefore he says matzah is called the bread of poverty. Why is it called poverty? Because poverty means if I have no mind, right? I stop thinking. I'm not thinking. I'm poor. I have no mind. But the matzah, my mind is so strong that my mind tells me stop thinking, be poor for a minute. Don't think. It's like a Gewalt, Because the Gemara says, only elebedas, a poor man means someone who doesn't think, right? So Pesach, I'm so strong, I say to myself, I want to be poor. I got to get out of Egypt and fast. It's like a Gewalt, Then he says again, the whole difference is chometz takes a long time, it's a slow process. Matzah is fast again, Matzah, the holiness of matzah is I'm running, I'm telling my mind, stop, I don't care. It has to be done. It has to be done. And therefore he says, Pesach is a celebration of believing. Matzah is called michle de asvosa, the bread of believing, because it takes a lot of believing to believe that this is what I have to do. Very strong believing. A lot of people know what they know, but if they don't believe in it, then the mind keeps on going, right? So, Pesach night, I believe so strong, I'm just doing it. He says bread, in a certain way, has at least a certain, has a certain shape, right? Something, Matzah, it actually has no shape. It's a little water and flour. You put it there, you put a little bit strong, and you eat it, right? There's no, it's just like this. Light, anything live when it has vessels, that means it has a certain shape. What's vessels? Shape, right? Matzah is light without a shape, light without vessels. That means the light is so deep, I don't have vessels for it. I don't know. It's beyond vessels. It's just shining. I don't understand it. I know the light is there. That's exodus out of Egypt. Sometimes we know something deep in our hearts. I really don't know what it is. But I don't have the strength to follow it because I'm a slave. Pesach night, something so deep is shining. I have no vessels for it because it's only like matzah. I don't understand it. I have no vessels even to understand it. But I just follow it. He says, when we stood on Mount Sinai, God gave us vessels for this great light. Because the Torah is vessels for the great light. Pesach is a light without vessels, like a Gewalt, Just a great light, And therefore we drink like wine, we're a little bit drunk. I don't know what's going on, In other words, like this, Pesach is mamish, the whole yontif, according to Nachman, is mamish like whatever you'd call it, subconscious or below conscious, above conscious. All those things which are going on so deep in my mind, but all the time my mind is stopping me, right? In Pesach, I'm strong enough to put my mind aside, right? I'm not a slave to what my little mind tells me here, because I know what's going on inside and above and is much deeper than all this, right? I eat matzah, and mamish, a great light is shining. I have no vessels, I have no words for it, I don't know what it is, but I'm just going. I'll tell you something even deeper. Rab Nachman says, what is the greatest evil? Evil says to you, wait, Chabnisht, let's talk about it, right? Yeah, let's discuss it. He says, that's Chometz, right? Chometz says, wait, it takes a long time. Bread, you want to eat bread, yeah, but let's talk about it. It takes half hour till the yeast goes out, Matzah says, I have no time to talk about it. Just throw it in the oven and I go. It's a Gewalt, What? It's mamish top, I don't even talk to my friend about it, I just do it, Because if I talk to somebody else, it takes already time. Listen to this. Time is always a vessel, right? Pesach is no time, right? Matzah is no vessel because there's no time involved. In fact, it's beyond time. That means Pesach, I'm turned on to the utmost of beyond time and space, right? To the utmost. And then Shavuos, God gives me vessels for all this great light, Later on, give me vessels. Pesach, I have no vessels, Because the truth is, to get out of slavery, you cannot get out with vessels, right? You don't get out with vessels. If I walk out from Egypt and someone gives me a meal in my hand and walk out, I'm a slave. I'll never get out of it, right? I have nothing. I'm just. Rebbi Shlomo, listen, kids, I just want to wish you a good Pesach. We should get out of our Egypt. Everybody, I'll be drowned in Egypt. in good Egypts, everybody has excuses for the Egypts, you see, Chassidus makes it very clear, Egypt doesn't have to be a low Egypt, in mud. It might be a very holy Egypt, but it's still Egypt, Because if you can be better, if you don't know your name, you're in Egypt. If you don't know who you could be, who you can be, right? The beginning of Shema says, I know my name, I know what I can be. And that gets me out of Egypt. And the whole thing, Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen says, the whole thing, slavery begins with Yitzchak, that I lost my roots, right? Not in touch with my roots. And getting out of Egypt is, because my roots are deeper than my mind, right? My roots are much deeper than my mind. So Pesach is mamish root work, right? And when my roots knock into me a little bit, begin working on me a little bit, then my mind is strong enough from the matzah I ate, makes my mind so strong that my mind can let loose. Say, okay, I won't think, I promise. But then the Kotzker Rebbe says, imagine how deep your mind becomes after you don't think, this is very deep. My mind can be trained by a lot of thinking, my mind becomes deep, right? And then there's a certain depth my mind can reach by not thinking. Meaning like this, if I study a lot and I think a lot, then my mind is always deeper, then that means my mind can make more and more vessels for light which can have vessels. But what about the light which has no vessels? How can my mind be a vessel for that light? My mind can become a vessel for that light if I stop thinking. In a holy way, not just because I'm too stupid. I'm so clever that I'm not thinking. And then after that, this great light is shining and suddenly I make vessels for that too. What do you say, Mordechai? What? Without vessels, And in matzah is no vessels. Everything is no vessels, Pesach, more. But who needs vessels, most people say, how can you have a life without vessels, right? Listen, how can you drink coffee without a cup, right? Where do you put it, right? But this is a slave, a free person. Where does it say I need a cup to drink coffee, right? So it says, okay, there's one God. If you don't have a mind, how do you know in your mind? That's only a question of a slave. A free man says, my mind knows without mind, It's like a Gewalt, Anyway, Pesach is mamish, it's so deep, Listen, kids, I want to make fast Kiddush Levono, yeah? Let's go out let's make it strong. What?
David melech Yisrael chai v'kayom. David melech Yisrael chai v'kayom. David melech Yisrael chai v'kayom.
Now the thing is, everybody has to say 3 times Shalom Aleichem. Everybody has to answer. Who's a Kohen? Who's a Kohen here? Oh, Kohen. Oh, Jonas and also we have 2 Kohenim. Okay, you start. Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem.
Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem.
Okay, hold
Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem.
Holy Rabbi Yosef, Holy Chosin, let's go. Aleichem Shalom. Aleichem Shalom. But you know, you can say Shalom Aleichem for Chavale, which is sincere, so say for her also. Let's go. Aleichem Shalom. Aleichem Shalom. Aleichem Shalom. Holy Ayat. We hope for the day when the moon will be as strong as the sun, you know? You know what that means? That with all the newness you're waiting for, we still think that the old light is bigger, you know? Deep down, you know? We're happy with the little new moon, you know, we know all about newness, but we still think the sun is still stronger, you know? Someday we'll know that one little new spark is better than the whole sun, you know? But the Mashiach is coming, you know? Like, we don't know the holiness of newness, you know? Never know. Maybe one krechts one day, you know, one new krechts, one new sigh, you know? Maybe it's better than my last Yom Kippur, I don't know, you know? But I wouldn't admit it to myself, you know, because I'm supposed to think that the sun is the biggest, right? You know, there's a passage in Kailas that says, if you say that the old days were better, then you didn't ask out of wisdom. You didn't ask as chokhmah, you know? It's a very strong passage. The Holy Pshischa would always, it was his passage he was talking about it, you know? If you say yesterday was better, you're not at the level of wisdom, you know? It's a passage in the in Kailas, but he would, it was on his lips all the time, you know? It's hard to stomach, you know?
You saw a shooting star, Shlomo?
No.
Right behind you.
Listen, brother, I saw you and you're a shooting star. That's why the stars are so small, you know? Because they're so high up, so they feel so small, that's why they look so small, you know? Tremendous. You know why the birds are flying? Because they sing all the time, you know? Is it tremendous? This is mamish, a classic thing of the Baal Shem Tov. Shem Tov says like this. When you look up, it looks close. When you look down, it looks far. He says the truth is from here to the stars is, you know, millions, I don't know, billions, I have no conception, right? When they look close. When you stand on top of a mountain, you look down on the valley, it looks very far. It really is not so far, you know? It depends if you look up or down. He says, if you look down at a person, they look far from you. You look up to them, they look very close. You know? You look up at yourself, you're close. You look down at yourself, you're far. It's mamish a gewalt, you know. He says something very, very deep. As a posuk hashkifo and habito, you know. Hashkifo means to look up, you know. And to look down. It depends how God looks at us also, you know. God looks down at us. Bad scene. God looks up to us. Wow, she's very close. Depends. If you look up to God, He looks up to us, you know. If you look down, He looks down. There's something very strong, you know, looking up or looking down. The Holy Strelitzke, you know, everybody knows, was top pupil of the Holy Kalina. But then, never the Holy Kalina passed away, so at one time the Holy Kalina said, Ramotchene Shchita is an Erlich Yid, you know, as a real Yidele, an Erlich Yid. He said, I'll go there. He was there for 3 years, and mamish strong. And then one day he wanted to see what's really going on there inside, you know. So he decided to hide himself in the closet and left the door open a little bit. Okay, he saw people coming in, you know, asking for blessings, and he spoke to them. Suddenly the door opened and a real sinner man, you know, you could see the word sin written all over him. So he wanted to jump out from the closet and get him by his throat, his chutzpah, you know, even to come into the Rebbe. But he thought, oh, I'm waiting, the Rebbe's going to throw him out, that thief, disgusting creature. So then he saw, not only didn't throw him out, Ramotchele got up and mamish embraced him and was so happy with him, so he couldn't hold back anymore. And he says, Rebbe, not only you're not throwing him out, you're even happy to see him, you know? What's going on here, you know? So he says, Uri, he says, you don't deserve even to be under my roof, get out fast, you know? So the Rebbe says not to be under his roof, you know, so mamish. He listens to him. He ran out fast, and for 4 weeks he didn't even go to the synagogue because the synagogue was under the same roof, you know? You know, because if you offend your Rebbe like you for 4 weeks, you're like in exile, you know? So after 4 weeks, Ramotchele called him back and he says, Uri, he says, until you learn mamish to freizach, you know, mamish to be happy, is every little yidele, you'll never be a Rebbe, you know? Until you learn that. It's a gewalt, you know? Mamish, sich zu freien, you know, to be happy, to see him, you know? Even the most obnoxious sinner, he says, won't be a Rebbe. But anyway, he learned it. Obviously he learned it, you know, very strong. I tell you something, you know, the Strelitzke Chassidim, you know, the holy Kosovo was the holy Strelitzke's brother-in-law. His Chassidim were very holy, but they were not completely out of this world, you know, the vision of his grandfather. So he said to the Strelitzke, he says, how come your Chassidim are such schleppers? You know, everybody has torn pants and not one of them has a clean shirt. It's mamish gefährlich. Can't you just see to it? They should, he says, Strelitzke says, I'll tell you. The truth is, for my Chassidim, all the gates of heaven are open. If they would ask for it, they'd get it, but they never ask for it. So he says, you don't believe me? Let's try. So Holy Strelitzke goes to the Smedrash and he says, right now the gates of heaven are open. Everybody can, what? Oh. He says, everybody can come up and ask me for a good wish. And the Kosovo was sitting next to him. So one Kosovo comes and he says, I should have mamish, a holy Shabbos, you know. Chweis, the other one who was asking Chweis, you know, I should know the secret of matzahs. The other one comes and he says, mamish, I should know how to daven, you know, and the other wishes I know to learn. Not one of the Chassidim asked him for anything in this world, you know. Not one of them. So Strela says to Kosovo, you see, this is my Chassidim, you know. It's a gewalt, you know. that not one person should ask for anything in this world, you know. One of Chassidim asked, once in my lifetime I should be blessed to say Baruch She'omer as you say it, you know, to the Rebbe. Very around, you know. Listen to this. Yeah? Really aware, this house had a friend and they swore to each other, whoever leaves first this will come back into